Celebrate the summer solstice in community.
Join our annual Arts and Wellness Festival to connect, create, and celebrate with the Sultry Sisters.
In 2023, we explored what it means to cultivate your sanctuary.
Our 3-day festival highlights BIPOC, women, and queer artists and wellness practitioners based in San Diego.
Each year, we collaborate with featured guest artists to build our festival program, which includes creative expression classes, wellness workshops, and performances.
Day 1 of the festival is all about connection. We begin our festival with a social mixer where attendees enjoy music, dancing, and have an opportunity to meet other attendees, guest artists, and us.
Day 2 of the festival is all about creating. Our arts and wellness workshops give folks an opportunity to explore, embrace, and embody what cultivating your sanctuary means to them.
Day 3 of the festival is all about celebration. There is music, dancing, performances, and an open mic for attendees to share. Without a doubt, we always close with a dance party and teach folks the sultry strut.
We are grateful for all the memories made each year at our Summer Solstice Arts and Wellness Festival, and we can't wait to see you next year.
In the meantime, remember to keep living vibrant and shining bright. Hey.
Yes. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to our weekly Bayan book club.
It is week 7, and we are in the thick of The Artist's Way.
We are more than halfway through now, so that's exciting.
Definitely exciting, and I'm looking forward to hearing how everyone's week went. Because this week was all about recovering a sense of connection. But before we get into the book club, we just want to welcome you all here and do our check-in. Learn where you are tuning in from, what you're sipping on, if you want to highlight anything you're wearing, if you want to share how you're feeling today. We just want to do that kind of check-in.
Yes, so I'm checking in from the DC area. I have my Nikki Giovanni shirt on. So I was calling on our ancestor now. And then I have my book earrings because, it's book club.
We love. So cute.
And then I'm sipping on, this is my little treat to myself, my pomegranate San Pellegrino sparkling water. It's like my favorite flavor that they have. So I was like, ooh, I need my sparkling drink
today. Oh, well, we love it. Well, I'm tuning in from San Diego, specifically the Don Powell Theater, because your girl is performing in Rent tonight. So I'm on like this lobby area, a little loft, and I'm sipping on, y'all, I'm just trying to stay hydrated because if you're a singer, you know, I've already drank half of this. I refilled it up. So I'm staying hydrated so the vocal cords can do it.
Not the hydrate. I don't even have regular water with me today. I'm like, sparkling or nothing. Okay.
I want to do sparkling, but I know better, and I know I need to do just pure water. But for those of you who are just tuning in, make sure to get yourself comfy. You can listen while you are doing your commute home. You can listen while you're still at work. You can listen while you're on a walk. We are just here to hang out and talk about our reflections of the book club. We want to do some announcements. We do have some things coming up. We don't have it listed on our things to come up, but we do have some fun festivities happening this weekend. Do you want to talk about that, Tony?
So we'll be leading a session at the No Other Festival, which is a queer camping festival in Hakumba. I don't know how to say it. Spring, so the desert. There's a lot of people going to that, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, we're really excited for that. And then at the end of May, we have our last Radical Soul Care series workshop. It's free. It's at the public library in Oceanside. So you can register and sign up at sultrysisters.com/events to learn more. And we also have our annual festival happening in June. The tickets are live now, and you can still get a few more early bird tickets. And make sure to get that before we go to our regular sliding scale tickets. You can learn more at sultrysisters.com/SS Festival. We are also looking for volunteers. So if you want to come and you want to be a part of our community and setting up and all that, you can volunteer with us. That's on our website and on our Instagram link in bio. So we'd love to, if you want to get to know us, that's a great way to integrate yourself in our communities by volunteering or coming as a guest.
And our early bird tickets will be ending soon. So there's a limited amount of our early bird tickets, and we're going to close them. So if you want to get your ticket for $100 for all 3 days and you get an exclusive Sultry merch item, definitely go to our website and get your tickets now.
Yes. We are super excited for that. And this year's theme is the healing nature of play. So all of the workshops, all the activities will be in conversation with what it means to play and exploring the different play practices that different guest artists want to share along with us as well. So we're definitely excited for that. It's a perfect time for summer. I know I'm looking forward to it because I'm about to complete my first year of grad school on Friday. So I am going to be really in a play space by the time we hit June.
Yes, and if you're in the DC area, May 17th, I will be leading our Soulscape practice here at the Viceroy Hotel. So if you go to our link tree, you will find the link there.
Yes, lots of happening. So it's really exciting because, we have our ongoing program that's virtual, but we're always excited when we get to connect with y'all in real life. So the fact that you have opportunities to connect with Sultry Sisters in DC and San Diego is an abundant thing. So definitely take advantage of that.
And we have Jessie joining us from SoCal, nice and hydrated and ready to dig into this week's chapter. Yay!
Yes, let's dig.
Yeah, so if you're joining or even if you're watching the replay, you can comment below again where you're tuning in from, what you're sipping on, and you can still comment and interact throughout the live, even if you're watching the replay, and we'll reply back to y'all.
Yes. There's so many. I definitely am looking forward to digging into this week's chapter, but shall we start with a check-in? Let's start with a check-in. So for our check-ins each week, we want to see how we did with our morning pages. We also have artist dates. Julia Cameron added these different weekly activities for us to stay engaged and have a sense of recovery. So let's check in. How were our morning pages? Did you get to them this week? I think I'll go to the chapter to see if there's a extended question in regards to morning pages. Okay.
Pull that
so
up.
Julia,
To actually do an announcement for our next guest speaker. So
Oh,
our
yeah.
guest artist for next week is our friend Jenny Wright. And so Jenny you probably are familiar with her name if you're in our community because she was our very first culinary artist for our first annual Summer Solstice Festival back in, that was 2022. And so Jenny was, or is that 2021? 2021?
2021.
Yeah, many years ago, y'all. 4 years ago. So do the math. Yeah, 21. And so we met her when she was still living in Brooklyn through Creative Women Build with my best friend Jasmine and that cohort of women. And then Jenny moved to LA and she's still based in LA, but she comes down to San Diego to be a part of our community. So she was really excited to join us next week as we talk about week 8. And then essentially every week after that until we end, we will have a guest artist. So it's going to be really exciting to have different people from our community joining us to share their insights. So we have all kinds of folks, some people who are practicing there are and like have shared it with Sultry, like have partnered with us. And then there's some people who are more so like our Sultry fam, like friends, and they love participating in the book club and wanted to be a part of it that way. And then there's some people too who just heard about the book and then wanted to come on to share their insights. So we appreciate all of y'all for volunteering to be on the live with us. Like it's been a nice addition to have, like other people sharing live with us. And it was really exciting to have Pauline last week. So if you missed any of our past episodes, you just go to our YouTube channel and all the replays are there, the full episode. And we keep them up for a little bit. It's not forever, but we'll keep them up for a little bit after our book club ends, so you can catch up on all the past weeks and all the guest artists. But yeah, every week essentially until we come to a close, we will have a guest artist.
Yes. So for our check-in, our first question is, how many days this week did you do your morning pages? Have you allowed yourself to daydream a few creative risks? Are you coddling your artist child with childhood loves? I love that question. Yes, I did my morning pages this week. I started off with a bang. So I got 4 out of 7. And these last 3 days have been a challenge just because of being in a show and waking up with a very lethargic mind. But yeah, so I got 4 out of 7. And have I allowed myself to daydream a few creative risks? I don't know. I don't know if I've allowed myself to daydream, but I've definitely been taking some creative risk in my performances this weekend. And I feel like the dream has been for me to be able to take risks on stage. I would say that has manifested itself. And are you coddling your artist child with childhood loves? Interesting question. I'm like, I don't know. Let's ask the group. Have you, Tony?
So this week I did 6 out of 7. I thought I did 7 out of 7 when I was counting back. Apparently I missed day 3. I want to say it was because the night before there was something that went on that made me anxious and threw me off my rocker. So I think the next morning I was just like resting. I want to say that's what happened, but the pages don't lie. There was nothing for day because I was like, oh, maybe I didn't label it. There was nothing there. So, and this week, some days I did all 3 pages, but not every single day I did all 3 pages. And definitely many of the days, one of the pages is like a to-do or like a stream of consciousness of like all the things on my mind that I need to do, which the list just stays long because every day there's just a lot of stuff to do that they don't always get done. So yeah, I did 6 out of 7. Now I feel good when I do them, but I'm still not quite doing them like my first thing in the morning because just my schedule. And the daydream, not necessarily with my morning pages because my morning pages is really just me writing down on my mind. It hasn't really turned into creative stuff. I mean, a different week it had, but not this week. It's literally just barely getting through what I have on there. And then if I've been coddling my artist child, no, I'm just tired. So I wish I was. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking back at my journal and I did daydream some creative risks. I did. Like, and I wrote like over 3 pages because I was really into what I was writing about. That's funny.
I don't remember. I know
Yeah.
with my pages, I write them down and I forget. So who knows what happens on there?
And I think that's what I'm learning to do. I feel like with my morning pages, I'm learning to like write it and like let it be. Where I used to sometimes like ruminate like of what I wrote because I would judge it, or it'd be a struggle. But now, like when I do write, like it feels good in the moment. But I do have to go back. Like I did have to go back and refer. I'm like, oh yeah. So
We have Kyle sharing. I was able to get all my pages done this week, but just barely finished today's this afternoon. But you still did it.
yes, you did it.
Did it. And then Jesse shares, I got 5 out of 7. So I understand the lethargy. I could definitely be daydreaming more. Maybe that's a goal for this week. Yeah. Okay, so now we want to check in with our artist date. So she says, did you do your artist date? Did you use it to take any risk? What did you do and how did it feel?
Yes. I did my artist date on Monday, and I had the big idea to go see Sinners finally, but your girl was tired because, the show, and I just like wanted to go home, but I still wanted to watch a movie. So I ended up watching Quiz Girl. No, sorry, Quiz Lady on Hulu. It's with Aquafina and Sandra Oh. It's about sisters, and it's a really cute story. And I painted my nails while I did it. Now, was it risky to paint my nails at 9 o'clock at night and then go to sleep? Yes. So that was my risk. It's textured nails. But that was my artist date, and it was nice because I still honored the fact that I wanted to see a movie. I still wanted to have my popcorn, and I felt like because it was an artist date for myself and I was watching this movie, I didn't really touch my phone. Like I felt like I was really taking in the movie and I didn't feel as distracted, where lately, just because of my performance schedule, I haven't really been able to be present when I watch anything. I've been watching something and doing something at the same time. So it was nice to just like watch a movie, while painting my nails. And it just was a nice feeling to not feel like I'm doing 5 million things while trying to enjoy myself.
That makes sense. And Katie shares, I'm stoked to do my artist date tonight. Going to see Alyssa show. Yay! That's exciting. Enjoy.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, this week I didn't have like a full artist date because, again, if I don't schedule it, it don't happen. And with everything else I'm balancing is like there's only like 2 days a week I could get it in if I need to, and if I don't get it in those days, then it doesn't happen. But I did do like a mini date, which was there was a song that I was listening to or I heard on social media that I really liked and that I used to like a lot, so I put it on my like Apple Home speaker, and then I was dancing around my living room to it, and that was fun. Just bopping around, kicking my legs around. So that was nice. But then I ended up getting a migraine. So then I don't know. So then it just spurred into just me not feeling great. Oh, that's probably why the next morning I didn't do my morning pages, because then I had a migraine, and it was like it was weird. I was feeling great, and I literally was having a great time, and then all of a sudden my body was like, I'm shutting it down. So I don't know what that was about. Maybe the creative risk was that it was risky for my body to be moving so much. I don't know, but it didn't. That's why it didn't last that long, because then I started not feeling well.
I understand. I think what's happening for me with the artist date is, taking it from something that's so big, like I gotta go somewhere and spend some money, to where like I'm gonna spend time with myself. So I hope folks, like now that we're week 7, that we are starting to really personalize the date to matching like our capacity, and also realizing it is intentional time with ourselves. And that could be a plethora of things. It can even be like an intentional lotioning down of your body. That can be a date too. So I hope that's helpful. Or I'm curious if people have been like distilling down dates to being more personal versus like I should do this versus I actually feel called to do this right now. Are you starting to feel like a more of a authentic response to what you want to do, or or are you feeling like you still have like a list that you're trying to get to? I think that's an interesting question for the group.
Yeah, mine has been more just authentic because I just felt called to dance to the song. But I would like to do the list of things that I have written down somewhere. But yeah, I just haven't had the time or capacity.
Well, with that said, this is a follow-up question, y'all. Were there any other issues this week that you consider significant for your recovery? Aside from morning pages and aside from the date, is there anything that happened this week that's significant for us to recover our artist?
Oh, well, actually, now that I think about, sorry, not about the recovery, but I sort of had an artist date, but then yeah, I guess I didn't go there with someone, but I ended up seeing a friend that I hadn't seen in a while. But I went to this sustainable fashion show event. I forgot because, again, there was a lot going on over the weekend, like internally, because then it was a great day, then it turned out to be a not great day because of things externally. But I went to the sustainable fashion event, which apparently was the first one in DC for this group called like Climate. Oh, I forgot the name, my bad. But they do it different places, and it was our first time doing it in DC, and it was in this beautiful venue. So my friends were modeling in the sustainable fashion show that they had. They had like over 10 designers, I think. They had a swap, so I got some swap items, and I got to swap out some things. Then I got to see some friends who I don't get to see often and catch up, and that was super sweet. And there was different vendors selling like sustainable and like reworked, repurposed fashion. So it was just like everything that I love in one place on the wharf in DC. So yeah, it was a really cool event. There was panels talking about like sustainable fashion and like textile recycling. And I guess in DC, there's like a textile fiber shed where like scrap fiber materials are. I don't remember all the details. And I guess they're sharing how like DC is the first, I guess, of many major cities in the US that has its own city, like the local government has its own department for sustainable fashion.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, I didn't realize. I would think other cities would have them too, but I guess we have like a whole system, I guess, of talking about this stuff. So yeah, so it was cool. So I guess that was my artist day because I did go there by myself. Again, I think because there was things that night and the next morning that kind of clouded that experience for me. But now I'm remembering, I did actually have a good time.
Yeah. I think it's a great question too. It's like, is the group feeling like their creativity and more creative? Like, are you finding yourself in more creative environments? I think that's a good question. Like, are you subconsciously gravitating towards events and places and people that spark creative juices? I think that's something too important to acknowledge. So I'm glad that you realize that, like, you're in it. Sometimes and then you don't even realize like that was something that was pouring into you and inspiring.
Yeah. And I think, I guess, kind of along the creative risk, but it was more so one of the tasks. But with my outfits this week, like one of the tasks was like wear a favorite item in your closet just because, like not for a special occasion. So I did do that. I have these like lace skirts that I love. So I wore one to the sustainable fashion event. And I really love that outfit. Essentially, a lot of my outfits in the last year, I think I don't really repeat the outfit technically because I'll change my accessories or how I layer it. And so I did that at the event. People liked my outfit and I enjoyed my outfit there. And then even today at work, I wore this like lace maxi skirt with my big t-shirt. And I guess it's a creative risk because it's like something that maybe you wouldn't wear in these like environments. And then the other day when I went to Trader Joe's, I wore these like big flower earrings and these like cute tropical pants to get groceries. Literally, I did nothing else that day but get groceries. So yeah, I guess those are like the risks that I'm taking. It's just like how I express myself in my style.
Let's see what some folks have in the chat. We got Kyle did a creative risk this week, tried out a new recipe. It turned out Okay, but it was nice to prepare it from scratch. Yes, that I find making something new from scratch is definitely a fun creative risk for sure. We have Jesse. When I was in high school, I learned to knit for a play. 10 years later, I picked it up while doing another play during rehearsal downtime. And then I said I should try crochet. Ah,
Yay!
so this week I finally started to learn crochet. We love.
Yay!
Yes. I love hearing how, we're starting to pick up these these uh, these uh, these creative interests are, coming back to our lives. It's really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. And then Katie shares, I started a new job, so it's been an adjustment, and I missed a few morning pages. Totally understand.
Congrats.
Congratulations. But yeah, I started my new job in January, and I'm still adjusting, girl. So, so
Yes,
give
yes,
yourself
yes.
all the grace and compassion.
Yes. I would say I took a creative risk on like my makeup, my show makeup, because I don't know how to contour, y'all. And so I did contour for the first time. And that was usually you don't really want to change up your makeup in a show. You want to do exactly what the makeup person told you to do because they're an artist in their own right. And then you also want to make sure whatever you're doing is, one, approved and two, attainable. So I did some different order in how I did my makeup. And I got compliments like, "Oh, you look good." Like I was like I beat my face. Like I got extra. Everyone's like, "What'd you do different?" And it was the contour and like the order in my eyeshadow. So that was a risk because I'm a creature of habit. I don't really play. I'm like, this is how they told me to do it, and I'll do it exactly how they told me. So I feel like that's a little bit of a creative risk.
Mm-hmm. And I guess thinking about any issues significant for my recovery, I did have therapy at the end of last week. And she said that she noticed whatever we were discussing, that she felt I had some growth because I guess how I was like approaching the situation or like how I was talking about it. She's like, "Oh, you seem very like open-minded and like open to the possibility or like the unknown." Versus, I guess, before for that situation, I'd be like, "No, ma'am." So that was cool for her to share that she saw growth in me, because I feel like that could be part of like, the creative recovery of like just having more like being okay with openness and like unknown and like not having like a distinct like this is what I need to be doing or this is what I want to be doing. It's just kind of like we'll see.
Yeah, speaking of openness, this week, then this show, I don't cry, y'all. But the last 3 shows, I've been crying on stage during the sad moments. Like, go chasing waterfalls. Like, publicly, like, wet face. And people are like, "Are you okay? Like, I saw you crying on stage." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm actually, like, really feeling what's going on." And so I feel like the block that I usually have of, like, not feeling something or not allowing myself to feel something deeply because I don't want to be perceived weak. Like it's interesting. And I'm like, wow, I'm really allowing myself to be witnessed in a vulnerable state. And so I think that has to do with this artist way and also like just allowing myself to feel.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm like putting my feelings in here. And so I'm able to know like I don't know how to explain it, but like I feel like my feelings feel like clear. This feeling is this feeling is this. Because when I didn't really know where it was coming from, I felt like it was scary to cry because I don't know what's gonna come out.
Mm-hmm.
But now that like I'm allowing like emotions to come out, I can be really present and have a pure like true crying session, but nothing else is attached to it that's gonna like keep me from being able to sing and talk and do my job, but I am feeling.
Yeah,
That
you
makes
to
sense.
express it, release or that expression. Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm like, what's going on? But I'm grateful. I'm grateful. It feels good.
Welcome, crying club.
Katie, you'll notice, you'll witness it today. Maybe, possibly. Maybe don't let me not jinx myself.
Now that makes sense because, like, similar to what you're sharing, when I went to that sustainable fashion event, I got to catch up with a friend who I hadn't seen in a while. And last time I had seen him, he was like, "Oh, you were on like a break or something." I think it was when I lost my job last year or something. So I was like on a break. And then now I was like, "Oh, it's so not that. Like I have a full-time job. Soul Trees very much so in our very busy season." And so I was like, "Oh no, I'm not on a break anymore." And I was able to, through catching up, be very like open and vulnerable, like where I'm at in my journey right now, like how I'm feeling. Like I honestly just be feeling tired and exhausted a lot of the time, and like wanting support in new ways, especially in our business. And I vocalized that to Alyssa, and then I was sharing that with my friend. And actually, before I even shared that with him, he was like, "Oh, it sounds like you might need an assistant." And I was like, "Oh, I was literally just telling my sister that like I think some of these things like that bogs me down. It could be, delegated to someone else to help support." And so it was nice to share just where I was at with someone and for them to like reflect like, "Oh, maybe this." And I was like, "Oh, that's literally what I was thinking." And then in that conversation that we're talking about, like, especially when you're creative and then also when it turns into like a business and you're owning a business or an organization that you're running, that like it's helpful to be vulnerable and to tell people like what you're actually going through, like what your problems are, so then people can like share solutions or just confide in, and they can be like, "Oh yeah, me too," or "I've experienced that before." So I think that's important too on this creative recovery, is like to be vulnerable. And like you said, like through crying is vulnerable. For me, I don't really tell people like how I be feeling about stuff. I guess that's my Capricorn rising. Like I'm very like looking like everything's put together, and inside I'm like, "Oh God." So to be able to be that open with someone who I hadn't really seen in a while, but then through that openness, they were like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense," or they experienced something similar. And then also them like wanting to support and to root for, Soul Tree and like what we're doing and trying to find like creative solutions. So yeah, it was like helpful of like, "Oh yeah, I do think, again, I could attribute that to this book." Because yeah, I think the practice of like opening up to your own self every day, then you're able to know what's happening, what you actually need, what you say you're okay with when you're really not.
Yeah.
And to really just kind of like put it out there, whether you're sharing that with another human or just your pages, like it's out there. And
Get it out, y'all. Get it out, whether it's your pages, a friend, yourself in the mirror. Get it out. And I feel like this chapter is talking about connection, like connection to self. So shall we get into it? All right, y'all. So week 7, let me read the beginning of this. It says, so we're going to turn to page 116. We turn this week to the practice of right attitudes for creativity. The emphasis is on your receptive as well as active skills. The essays, exercises, tasks aim to excavating areas of genuine creative interest as you connect with your personal dreams. And it starts with listening. And so as we go through the chapter highlighting different sections, if you have the book and are reading along with us, feel free to add quotes or responses to the sections in the comments so we can dialogue around it.
Yeah. And so when we talk about morning pages, that's when Julia Cameron really talks about like that's us listening again to our own inner artist and to creator. And so I like this quote that she shares on page 117, that art is not about thinking something up. It is about the opposite, getting something down. We're trying to create something out of nothing and like we're like trying to force it. So yeah, it's not really about forcing. It's more about like getting clear and opening up yourself to receive. And that's the getting something down. To me, I was thinking like, oh, that's the receiving the thing when,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, I got that creative idea. Or you start writing and then in your journal and then now you're at over 3 pages, right? That's the getting something down. Or when you go out on a walk or you're listening to a song and it helps spark that thing, and you're like, oh, that makes me think of this, or gives you inspiration. I think that's kind of what she's getting at in this listening section, is that, like, again, when we create that intentional time for ourselves, when we are in our like flow state, that we talked about in previous weeks, then that's when all of those ideas and that creative like energy or that urges can come.
Mm-hmm. And like, I also think with listening, it reminds me of our media deprivation week too.
Yeah.
And I think about how morning pages is when I'm not on my phone, and my artist date, when I was watching the movie and painting my nails, is when I'm not on my phone. So it's like, again, like we're sharpening our listening skills. And I loved how she synthesized and said like the page, like morning pages, trains us to hear our past, our sensor, and the artist date helps us to pick up the voice of inspiration. And so it's important to like notice like what kind of artist dates are you, once you start to go on artist dates, to notice what do you gravitate towards. As we write in our morning pages, notice what you write about. So it's like getting us to really listen to ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. Well, I think when we did the book club last year on Artist Way, I would take this little journal with me on my artist
Mm-hmm.
dates. And then, yeah, like when I would find that inspiration or that creative like urges and that energy, then I would write down little things. So then it would be in a journal that was easy. And then it was small, like pocket size. So I didn't really have to have like a big bag. But that felt nice because sometimes I'll just write in my notes app. But sometimes with technology right now, it's like, then you get an alert for something, then you get distracted. So it's nice sometimes to be able to just have a dedicated place for like my
Mm-hmm.
inspiration.
Definitely. And it's like that way of like writing it down, like that process too.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Um, Kyle shares, I've definitely gotten much better at listening and recording my inner voice. And that is from the pages. Mm-hmm. Still trying to balance between quieting the sensor and also taking a breath before ADHD surface thoughts emerge. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, I feel that.
I feel that too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
Yeah.
like for me too, what's I've noticed that I don't know why this happens, but I've started to, even like my interest in like things I'm listening to on my like listening to like on my commute has changed. Like before Artist Way, I was podcast girly. Like, let me find a podcast, let me listen to a conversation, someone's telling me more information. And now I'm like, queuing up more of like playlists and, oh, let me listen to this artist and deep dive into that one album. And so it's interesting. So like the listening, I'm also noticing that I'm being more, um, um, what is it called? Not particular, but I'm starting to like be selective of what I'm going to listen to in
Mm-hmm.
a creative way versus like, I should do this. No, I'm just literally like, I want to listen to that today. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, and I love this quote on page 119. With practice, we learn how to hear the desired frequency on request. Exactly what I'm talking about. We tune into the frequency we want.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Which kind of goes into another quote that she shares. Like, we can learn not only to listen, but to also hear with increasing accuracy that inspired, intuitive voice that says, do this, try this, say this, right? So, if you are, yeah, let's say you go on a walk and then it's like, oh, how about take the long route, and then you end up, going to this view, and then that view helps make you feel more poured into and fulfilled, right? It's just like listening. It's that practice of listening, but also like listening with intention, and that like helps your connection with self. I feel like my herbalism journey over the years has really helped with that, like
Mm-hmm.
because my connection with nature, like it's really a relationship of listening. Because one, in herbalism, or the lineage that I've learned from, you ask nature, whatever you're doing, um, for permission to like enter the space, or if you're going to
Mm-hmm.
harvest something, and you have to listen, like, because people always ask, well, how do I know if it's okay to pull, like, to harvest this plant, or how do I know this plant is going to be healing for me? And it's like the key word is listening. Like, you will ask nature in the way that you ask, and then you have to wait and listen. And it could be like a breeze comes by, or birds start chirping, or a butterfly lands on you, or whatever. There's a lot of other things. Everyone is different, but you do have to be tapped in and very present to listen and hear that affirmation from nature. And I feel like that's similar to what Julia Cameron is talking about in this section, is that like you do have to have that kind of like stillness of self to like hear and like to feel around you what that creative, voice is.
Mm-hmm. Another line I love in this section: we are the instrument more than the author of our work.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great, like, if I were to like sum up the section of listening in a quote of like, we are the instrument more than the author of our work. So let's start to really honor that and be the vessel. I think it takes the pressure off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it makes us more, like she said in the section, more of a collaborator, conspiring with universe, conspiring with other creatives, right? Like, there's a reason why I love collaborating with my sister. There's a reason why we love collaborating with other artists. So how can we see ourselves never alone in our creative practices? Because we are doing it with something, even if it's the ether.
Mm-hmm. And then on 119, there's a quote from Stella Terrell Mann: listening is a form of accepting. And I like that too, right? Especially when
Mm-hmm.
our creative practices of like accepting that this is what's coming to us. And it's like not pressuring ourselves, which kind of gets into the next section, but not pressuring ourselves for it to look like a certain thing, right? If you're listening, you're really just accepting, like, oh, okay, this is what's coming to me. So that's why, that's that getting something down. Like, you're just getting whatever's there, and you're like processing it in your own way. Like, I feel like that's the art process versus, oh, okay, it needs to be this thing, or thinking about the outcome, when it's like it's more about the actual process of you journeying through that inspiration.
Mm-hmm. And I also like want us to think a little bit too about like not only this listening section to help us like make a thing, but also to help us like appreciate a thing. Because I think something I've also been with the morning pages and listening to music, I'm like, why do I like this music? Oh, is it the hi-hats? Is it the percussion? Is it? And I think that's something to be excited about too. Like, diving into listening to ourselves, like, why do I gravitate towards that sound, that place, that thing? That can inform our creativity and how we, I guess, eventually make something. But sometimes just witnessing and reflecting on things that we like is creativity in itself. Because again, like, as an actor, what I do is interpretation. I'm an interpreter of someone's script and score. So I think that it's a powerful thing for anyone to like lean into their interpretation. So what did I think about when I saw this thing or when I heard this thing? I think that's a big part of being an artist, is our ability to translate something to ourselves
Mm-hmm.
or interpret.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of the task every week is listing what you like. What did you like when you were a kid? What do you like right now? Like this week, she's like, what are your favorite genres? Like, and yeah, it's just so you can do that inquisitive work. So I think that is why, again, she has the book written in the way she does, because it's like as you'll be inspired, as you start to listen, then she has prompts for you to listen to yourself and like, what do you like in case, maybe your date didn't necessarily inspire you in that way. Maybe some of the task will. So I also appreciate that about the book, that like, even if you didn't do your pages or you didn't do your date, you can still do the task, or vice versa, whatever. Or in the reading, you can be inspired, be inspired from a quote, right? So I also like that there's different touch points, because, all of us do have different ways that we may prefer to listen. So.
Speaking of listening, shall we talk about perfectionism?
This section every year.
Perfectionism, y'all. How did y'all feel about this
She
section? Did y'all feel called out? Did you feel like a growth? Maybe you don't relate to these things anymore. Are you still there? Where are you on the perfectionism spectrum? Um, uh, I love how she said, yeah, perfectionism has nothing to do with getting it right. It has nothing to do with fixing things. It has nothing to do with standards. Perfectionism is a refusal to let yourself move ahead.
Yeah, and to continue that quote, she said, "It is a loop, an obsessive, debilitating, closed system that causes you to get stuck in the details." Okay, so she said, "Yeah, you trying to be perfect in your art, that's just going to cause you to be in a loop." And I appreciate when she mentions a loop, because it's true, because you're like, it's never ending. Because like, if you're trying to be perfectionist, you're like, okay, when it's perfect, I'm done, but it's never going to be perfect. So you're never done. And you just keep going like this, versus what we talked about before, right? The quantity versus the quality. And perfectionism, I think, really harps and focuses on the quality of a thing versus the quantity of just getting it out there so you can move on to the listen and download the next thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I like how she used the examples of like with poetry, like perfectionism can stop us from ever making the thing because we're constantly redoing. And I think part of battling perfectionism is morning pages, because you're not going to go back and rewrite. You're just going to get it out. So I feel like there's parts of my life where I am more of a perfectionist and parts of my life where I'm more, so give myself more grace. But there's a part of that perfectionism that shows up when we self-edit what we say, self-edit what we share. So that's why we hope this discussion, like us being able to come to the discussion every week and show up, and maybe we didn't do everything perfectly, but we're still here, is a part of that recovery.
Yeah, I think that's why some people are not able to finish the 12-week journey, or however long it is. Because I think some people get stuck on the perfectionism part, right? Like, oh, if they don't journal right when they wake up, if they don't journal every single day, if they don't journal, or if they don't go on an artist day, if they don't read the chapter, and the list goes on. And yeah, I think it's less about doing it to the T of how Julia Cameron created this, right? This works for her. This worked for during the time and the capacity she had. But, everyone is different. We're now in 2025. So there's just, our needs and what we're able to do can change. And so I think that's when I hear people have, not able to complete the book and feel really down about it, or feel like, oh, I can only do it if I have the time, or if I'm off of work and like maybe they're on like a sabbatical or some sort of rest break. But I do appreciate that about our community, is that, yeah, even though we all have different capacities and different responsibilities, that we're still showing up, and that, we're still here. Now we're on week 7, right? Like many of us maybe wanted to give up week 3, week 4, but we're still here. And I think that's beautiful. And yeah, I think that's a part of the recovery and the healing, is that like you don't have to do it a certain way to be perfect. Like it's the imperfections that help you through the healing.
Yeah.
That's how you're able to see of like, oh, why am I not able to do my day? Oh, I'm not prioritizing my time with self. Okay, what is that making me think? Okay, it's making me think I really want to schedule that in versus like, oh, I didn't get a chance to do it. So now I just have to stop or have to start from the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. Jessie shares, I'm definitely more perfectionist than I'd like. I absolutely do redo my poetry. That part was speaking to me. No, I understand. Like I love poetry, and I think, and I think, and I admire writers. All right, I admire art that's like stays there, like painters, photographers, because I'm a live artist. So for me, it's like I always have tomorrow. There's the next show, and so I think it's interesting that I have a hard time with more things that like will stay. That's why I end up not sharing like those art forms are definitely harder for me because the perfectionist is so loud. Whereas like I feel like live art like challenges my perfectionist because there's so many factors that can make it not perfect. So it's like it's a great like way to work on my perfectionism, but it's a great way for me to camouflage my perfectionism.
Yeah. Which goes into this quote that she shares on page 120, which is, to the perfectionist, there's always room for improvement. The perfectionist calls this humility, right? Because they're like, oh, I'm not perfect. I want to do another draft because, I really want to get it right. And she said, in reality, it is egotism. Well, she said that was okay.
It was like,
Reframe, right? Like it's not
yeah.
that we're trying to be like that we need to improve. And I think that also kind of goes into our society, right? Of like capitalism and white supremacy and stuff that is kind of more perfectionist. Just the reality, like earth is imperfect, right? Like you will see a flower sometimes that has like lopsided petals or just different things, or vegetables that grow, and then the little vegetables that have little funky little things going on with them, and they're still beautiful, right? Like when we see it, I feel like when we see it externally, when we see someone else be imperfect, right? We're like, oh, that's so beautiful that they just, freestyling, and every time I go watch their show is different, right? But maybe to that artist, they're like, oh my God, I need to improve. But I think that's something I know in my journey where like I can really appreciate imperfection in other things, right? Like in nature, in other people. And then when it comes to yourself, I feel like, again, our censor and our inner critics and those voices of those haterators, I forgot what she calls them, but the people back in the day that were saying negative things, I think we get conditioned to think of, to value those voices versus the voice of like, oh, I just had fun doing this, or I just got it down on the page and that's good enough for me, right? Or I just tried this thing out. When she also talks about like, you need to, in order to, she's saying how just imperfection is a part of the creative process. And I just appreciate that she mentions that, because I feel like in my journey that's not emphasized as much as like the imperfection is okay.
Yeah, I feel like there's two sides of this coin. Like me, like being able to be imperfect is what makes me be able to be present on stage. Cause I have to just move on to the next thing. But me also being a perfectionist is why I keep wanting to. Okay, I'm going to be better the next time. So I feel like it's almost was one of the things. It's like I don't think Julia Cameron is telling us like, here's how you get rid of your perfectionist. It's more like here's how you know the perfectionist is really loud. This is how perfectionism will take away your artistry and make it impossible to eventually share. Because art is meant to be shared. It's meant to be witnessed. It's not meant to be perfect, but it's meant to be witnessed. Just like you said, the flowers, the trees, like they're there. They're just there. They're always there. So how can we be like that with our art? I mean, I'm literally trying to listen to myself as I talk myself into the next thing I'm about to do, you know?
Yeah. And she also talks about like how, yeah, like a painting is never finished, a film is never cut perfectly, but at a certain point you let go and call it done, right? Yeah, like there's gonna be a performance day, there's gonna be an opening of your
Yeah.
there's gonna be a thing. And then she says that is a normal part of creativity, letting go. And I
Yes.
think she talks about that a lot, is like the surrendering, the letting go. Because again, the perfectionist, you want to hold something, you think it's so precious. It's like what we said last week or the week before. We're like, you take ourselves so seriously where it wants to be perfect, but also we're not taking ourselves seriously enough, because then we're not even allowing, whatever we're creating to be its own thing, right? Because if we keep holding it so close and it needs to be perfect, then like we're, not letting go to the process of like, yeah, actually that wasn't my greatest.
Yeah. You know what's coming up for me, y'all, as we talk about this is like how I love talkbacks. I love artist talkbacks. I love when an artist is able to talk about their process, talk about the context in which they made a work. And I think it takes away the perfection, like the pedestal, and really grounds them. And I'm in my head, I'm like, oh, it's coming up with like this week of connection, right? So like, what's more interesting, the art or your connection to it, your connection to the artist's connection to how they made it. And so I'm like, oh, okay, that to me, I'm like, when I think about what I like most of witnessing others' art and my practice is the connection. Like that's my memory. My memory is my connection to it, not necessarily the craftsmanship, like how it was made and perfect brushstroke and the perfect composition. Da, da, da. No, what I remember the most is the connection.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's coming up for me in this conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Kyle shares that this time the line perfectionism has nothing to do with getting it right resonated with me. Moving forward, or maybe even getting it right, requires iteration and reps, finished efforts. Ooh.
Finished efforts.
Right? So it's not necessarily, yeah, like there's like one right way or one right thing or one right moment. It's just like the right thing is that you keep having an effort, keep having a output.
I love that.
Yeah. And I also feel like with like you said, when you connect to other artists and other artworks, I really resonate with what you're sharing, Alyssa, because I also feel like sometimes, people are like, I know people say this about me, like, let's say back when I was dancing a lot, I would think I messed up, or I would think my mess up was visible to someone. And they're like, oh, I really liked when you did that, like, blah, 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 insert whatever move. And I was like, oh, that was a mistake. And then that was what someone really resonated with, right? So I think that's also the beauty of the imperfection and of the just reality of being human, is that like, again, sometimes those things are what people really enjoy. And I know I've done that with other people's art too, like, oh, like, did you purposely do that, or oh, why did you use that color? And they're like, oh, that was the only color I had that day, so I made it work. And it's just like, oh wow, like that's really what I enjoyed about it. And it could be someone's like really self-conscious because they think it's a not getting it right, and then you as the viewer or the one receiving the art is like, that was the best thing ever. So I think that also just remembering when you're in the receiving end too, to remember how that felt when you're in the creating position of like, it's okay, like it's not that deep, like it'll be all right.
Exactly. Speaking of deep, shall we talk about risks?
Mm-hmm.
Y'all, risks. I love this question in the beginning. What would I do if I didn't have to do it perfectly?
Mm-hmm.
What would I do if I didn't have to do it perfectly?
Mm-hmm.
Let us know in the comments if you want to share. Answer: a great deal more than I am.
Right. I thought she'd always be coming fresh. She'd be like asking, like, so how do you feel actually?
Yeah, straight up. What would I do if I have to do if I didn't have to do it perfectly? So,
Oh yeah, that was one of mine that I put on there. So I put ceramics because I love doing ceramics and pottery. And even in my first lessons, I did get compliments from my teacher. But I know within myself, yeah, that perfectionism itch comes up, especially when I'm doing ceramics, because I feel like it's such a like I forget the word I'm looking for, but it's like a precious, kind of like a precious, fragile state, right? Like you're doing the clay, and then like depending how you do it, then when it dries, and then when you trim it, to then when you have it in the kiln, there's so many opportunities for things to go wrong. And so for me, I get very like precious about the clay and how I'm holding it, and then how the shape I'm making. And okay, is it thick enough? Is it this? So like I start to really overthink it. And then one of my friends here in DC also does ceramic classes, and I went to one, and it's literally like a play class. I forget the title she has for it, but you don't the purpose of the class is not to make something to take away. It's literally to just play with the clay. And so we're just, practicing techniques. And she also did different prompts of like, okay, now do it while your eyes closed. Now try to do a really tall one. Now try to make it like this and that. And I appreciate the way she taught because it helped me get out of my perfectionism. And she even noticed that during the class. She was like, you really want it to be perfect, huh? And I'm like, how did you know? It was like 5 minutes on keep shaping it up.
you know what else I would do if I didn't have to do it perfectly? Graphic eyeliner.
Oh.
Like makeup, because I don't, as you can see, I don't really be wearing makeup, but it's because a little bit of the perfectionism, like wanting it to look a certain way. But
Yeah.
I would be a makeup girly if I didn't have to be perfect. If people weren't gonna like criticize my cut creases and I would probably play a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I put in here was freestyle in a cipher publicly. Because y'all, we both are hip hop dancers. Well, we're a lot of genre dancers, but we also were on a hip hop collegiate competitive team.
Ooh,
And I still don't be comfortable to freestyle in the cipher. I'd be like, I could do choreography. I could do a 5, 6, 7, 8. But if you just want me to in front of other people publicly, I'd be like, oh, y'all good over there. I would just clap from the side. So yeah, if I didn't have to do it perfectly, I would be.
Okay, singers, you know this. If I didn't have to do it perfectly, I'd be running. I'd be running every line. Every time I'd be all these runs. I mean, I know they're sometimes unnecessary, but I'd be running it up. Vocal runs is what I would do.
And Katie shares, I want to dance like you too.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Girl, yeah. So I think that's what's like fun about like reflecting about these things. Like sometimes it is like, dang, we are kind of like, I think that's what Julia wants us to kind of reflect on is like, oh, sometimes we are stopping ourselves from trying these things, right? Because she's like, you don't got to be perfect, which goes into this next section about risk. But she's like, you could, whatever you listed on there, apparently Julia is essentially being like, then go do it. Like it's okay. You don't have to be perfect. You could try it out, right? You don't even have to stick with it. You could just try it on, see how it feels, and then be like, okay, I tried it versus, kind of being paralyzed with the fear of doing something wrong or not perfect. I think she's really about just like experiencing the things that make us feel good.
Mm-hmm. And cousin goes into this quote: as Block artists, we unrealistically expect and demand success from ourselves and recognition of that success from others.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
DIY. It should be DIFY. Do it for yourself.
Hey, but no, that's true. That's true. Because even like in the beginning of Soul Tree, I mean, still to this day, but especially in the beginning of Soul Tree, like sometimes we have 20 people sign up, sometimes we got 2 people sign up. But I know something that we learned, but especially me, was that like It don't matter how many people, like it don't matter like what the outside would deem successful of like how many people or like what it looked like or what kind of venue, what kind of thing is going on. But like if I felt internally like it was a good turnout, and it's usually about connection. That's when I feel like it's a great event. Is when I feel connected to folks, when I get to meet new people, when I get to share what I love, which is these healing practices with my community. Then I felt successful. It didn't matter if there was one person there or 25 or 100. Um, and so that is something that I have had to learn over the years, that like it doesn't matter what the people are saying over there, because it's really, how you feel internally for yourself. And because the recognition, it don't even matter. Because then there's certain things you get recognized for, and you're like, oh,
Like what? Exactly.
like, oh, I didn't even enjoy doing that project, but maybe that gets a lot of accolades versus maybe something that you feel so soul connected to. No one has clicked view, right? But then maybe something that people keep downloading. You're like, I did that and I didn't even care about it, Yeah.
And this other quote I love: we deny that in order to do something well, we must first be willing to do it badly. We have to first be willing to do it badly. Even if it's in your bedroom, y'all, it's okay. You gotta be willing to do it for yourself, even if it's badly. I mean, and I think for me, how I cover this up is I always try to sign up for a class. So this is a note I need to take for myself, because like, yeah, I eventually do a lot of things, and some like, oh, some people might assume like, oh, AJ, like you do a lot of things and you must be like, willing to be bad. No, I'm willing to be bad with a teacher, because I'm being taught. So like, I feel like I needed to take that and be like, okay, just tell yourself, even if you have no teacher, you're teaching yourself. So I wouldn't say like, there's people who are self-taught, like our mother's a self-taught sewist, seamstress, and I feel like a lot of things that I've done have been taught. And I really like tell myself that I have to have someone impart this knowledge on me. And so what I look for, like what I'm looking to journey in the artist way, is how to be self-taught, not in a egotistical way, but really to have a journey with figuring it out. And it's happened in cooking for me. I mean, going back to Kyle, like I feel like cooking is a place where I'm able to figure it out, and I've now enjoy cooking. But culinary arts is artistic. But I think it's interesting how I only allocate it in certain parts of my life.
Yeah. Or maybe because, I don't know, just thinking about it, maybe because that's like in the safety of your home, right?
No one sees it.
Right? Or like,
I'm going to eat it. I'm not feeding anybody else.
First, and then you can be like, oh, actually, no, this is for me. Like, no one's going to eat this, versus certain things, right? Like dancing at a cipher. Like, if you're going to teach yourself, like, you can do that, but there's probably going to be someone that's going to witness you not being as great as it. So I think that for me, definitely makes things feel like there's higher stakes, right? Like if there's witnesses, like, so my pole journey, I do take classes, but you still got to get up on the apparatus, which is the pole. Okay. And there's gravity. You be slipping, you be sweaty, your grip don't just be gripping. And so you just got to do it badly. Sometimes I'd be like trying to do certain things. Sometimes your body just doesn't want to do it, and that's okay. But on the pole, it's also like slightly dangerous. So like I had to learn, like you really have to trust your body when you do pole, like, because mostly your body will have some sort of memory and has its own, way it wants to move around naturally. And so it's mostly my mind that gets in the way and that makes me feel like, oh, I did it bad. But for the most part, if you're going around doing a little thing, it's fine. So yeah, my pole journey has definitely helped me embrace this quote of like doing it badly. And I've shared a lot about that, like when I share my pole journey on my stories and stuff. Because I actually enjoy being a beginner. Like it's something that, I would eventually like to learn more tricks and stuff, but I'm fine doing the little things that I do now. And I'm not in a rush. I'm not trying to do crazy inversions and go on multiple poles and stuff. I'm like, I like what I do. And I'm okay that I don't do it great all the time. I videotape myself so I can see my progress. But there are times where I'm falling out of a trick where, again, I'm not able to grip and I'm just like, I can't do things, or I don't feel like my body doesn't feel comfortable going upside down. So I think, allowing ourselves, maybe it's not in every aspect yet, but, having parts of our life and the things that we do to have that freedom to do it badly, I think is like the first step. So whether that's your morning pages, you can do it badly, your handwriting could be crazy. It's okay because it's in the container of here. Because then you close it up, no one sees it. So I think that's what I appreciate about this journey too, is that like it's not like we're all doing the same, right? We're not in a class. We're in this cohort of this circle of this book club in community. But I think that's a little less pressure than sometimes when you're in a group class setting, when you can feel like, oh, wait, they're doing this. And like you kind of have that competitive urge, some of us. But it doesn't, I think in this space, I think that's why I find it so healing to have this weekly discussion, is because we all have our own journeys. To me, it really does not feel like a competition.
Mm-hmm. No, it definitely doesn't feel like it. I mean, I think that's what I think that's also like thinking about the cohort of us. I think that's also why I like to do classes when I'm starting something, because then I feel like I'm not alone.
It's like when we did our walking challenge, like back in 2020, 2021, I started walking because my therapist told me I need to go outside and get oxygen, honestly. So I started walking, and then Alyssa started walking too. And she was like, you know what? She's like, we should have a challenge where how many miles we can walk a month. So that's how Stepping Stride Challenge started. Because Alyssa wanted to have community in that. But yeah, so you do naturally enjoy community.
Yes. Know thyself. Kyle shares, on risk, I'll say that necessity is often the push we need to take a creative risk. I've often relied on deadlines for that. I'd love to make it more of a normal practice. I can relate to that. Because, when you sign up for something, there's a deadline. Whether you sign up for a run, right? There's a risk there. I signed up for this run. I put my money towards it. But I think a lot of times, people will say that about folks. Oh, when you put your money towards something, when you pay for a class, you'll do it. But I also share the same sentiment of wanting to be able to have that type of commitment without, having to have a deadline, a hard deadline. But deadlines do help.
Yeah.
Naturally. Not naturally, but or like even seasons. Like that's why we have seasons. I feel like if we didn't have deadlines, like harsh deadlines, I think we have seasons for a reason. Like, it's a certain kind of temperature outside, so you're going to prioritize doing these things. These kind of things are out in nature, so you're going to do those things. So there's definitely some kind of framing in when we do things out of necessity, like we'd be outside in the summer.
Then when she talks about risk, then she also shares on page 123, she says, to put it differently, very often a risk is worth taking simply for the sake of taking it. There is something enlivening about expanding our self-definition, and a risk of selecting a challenge and meeting it creates a sense of self-empowerment that becomes the ground for further successful challenges. Viewed this way, running a marathon increases your chances of writing a full-length play. Writing a full-length play gives you a leg up on a marathon. And I really resonated with that because I do feel that's true. Like you feel, that self-empowerment is a real feeling. Like even
create your own stakes.
Yeah, but even like the artist way, right? Like finishing each week, and then eventually when we finish the full book, like that's an accomplishment, right? And you can feel like, oh wow, like if I was able to be consistent in pages and a date for these weeks, like why can't I be consistent in XYZ things? So I definitely feel what she's sharing there. And like, or when I finish a walk, when I say I want to walk, to the park and back, I'm like, oh wow, I did that, or it can be whatever it is that you have your journey. But yeah, that feeling is a true, like a natural high or euphoric feeling.
Yeah, and that empowerment comes from like I want to do this thing, and the creativity comes from working backwards. Well, how am I going to get there?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm.
And then also, like when you witness yourself finish a thing, right? The success of you completing whatever you told yourself you're going to do, then that in my journey creates like self-trust, and then you trust yourself more, which helps you take more risk, right? And I feel like in 2023 I had made an agreement with myself to honor my commitments to self, and at that time I started my pole journey, and there's some other things I was doing, but I literally told myself like, no, I want to honor these commitments and be consistent in the different risk I was taking, right? Like I was trying a new art form and form of fitness, but I wanted to honor that. And when I would do that, I was like, oh, wow, I did what I said I want to do. And that integrity in my journey has really helped me trust myself. And so then, yeah, when different situations come up, I can be like, oh, yeah, I remember that feeling, or oh, yeah, I want to do this for myself. Or if something is even hard, right? When challenges come up, then I can remember, like, oh, I did that hard thing. Like, remember when you did your inversion on the spin pole? Like, that was crazy, right? Your life maybe flashed before your eyes. But guess what? Now you can do this other hard thing. So I think that's a part of the recovery as well, is just that self-trust, trust that you can get through a challenge, and the you that you meet on the other side of that challenge is rooting for you.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts on risk before we get into the next segment? Jealousy. I really like the exercise too, so I hope we can get to that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so jealousy, which I feel like in general, I feel like jealousy is like I don't think this, but I feel like in our society, it's seen as like a tainted word, right? Like I feel like when people don't want to say like what they're jealous of who they're jealous of, or what is jealousy. I feel like it's a very like kind of a shameful word, right? Like I feel like people don't want to own that feeling of jealousy
Mm-hmm.
and acknowledge that it's there. So I appreciate that she again has a section about jealousy. Like it, we are human. This is a human emotion. We can and will go through,
Yeah.
process this.
And whether you're a blocked artist or not, jealousy exists because you're human.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it. And I love how she says jealousy is always a mask for fear. Fear that we aren't able to get what we want. Frustration that somebody else seems to be getting what is rightfully ours, even if we are too frightened to reach for it.
Mm-hmm.
That is real, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And and I feel like how do y'all feel about that definition? Where before reading this chapter, did you have a relationship to the emotion of jealousy? I know for us, when we read Brene Brown, Atlas of the Heart, we also talked about this word jealous and jealousy, to feel it and to acknowledge it. What do you do with it? Which was healing because, again, there's this like stereotype, not stereotype, but there's this like this common response to jealousy of like wanting to reject it versus lean in towards it. And that's why I love the exercise that was presented that we'll talk about later.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And she mentions before that quote, she mentions jealousy is a map. Each of our jealousy map differs. And that's similar to Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart when we talked about mapping our emotions and jealousy as well. So it makes me think like, oh yeah, I wonder if Brene Brown would consider when she talks about jealousy in conversation with this section. Um, but I do feel like it is a map because it like shows, it can illuminate things for us to show like, oh, where are we right now on our journey, right? When you pull up Google Maps and you'll see a little dot where you are, right? Like jealousy, when you think of it as a map there, like, okay, today I'm here, and like, oh, I want to maybe you want to get to another place and then you feel like there's something blocking that and that makes you jealous, or you feel like someone else's map has no delays on their route, you're like, I want no delays. And you feel like maybe, so I feel like also thinking of it as a map too is more like so you can just witness it and acknowledge it,
Yeah.
versus jealousy being like a personality trait or something, right? It's just
Yeah.
like, no, it's just there to show you. And so you can reflect and take that in, and then move from there with the informed knowledge that you have, versus, oh, so you're just now like a jealous person. Like, no, it's more nuanced than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like jealousy also makes us and it inhibits us to be able to honor someone else's experience,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so again, that's why I like this exercise. Because I don't know, I just really enjoy it, because I think again, it's a prickly thing for a lot of people, but I think prickly is very interesting. And I think it's something, I feel like if we talked about jealousy more, then I feel like more people would be able to pursue things without blocking themselves, because it goes into this next quote, like jealousy strips us from our will to act when action holds the key to our freedom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like sometimes jealousy will make you avoid people or avoid things versus leaning towards it. So it's like, I don't know, I think recovering our relationship to jealousy is a key to our creative blocks, can
Mm-hmm.
be a key
Yeah. And
to unlocking our block.
she talks about jealousy being a stingy emotion, and it doesn't allow us to see the abundance around us, right? um and the multiplicity of the universe, she shares. And I think that's true, right? Last week we talked about abundance, so she's saying if we're talking about abundance, if we're shifting our mindset with abundance, then jealousy does not help us with embracing that abundance, because jealousy is really about comparison, right? It's about like her previous quote before this, of like feeling like someone is like maybe taking something that's rightfully ours, when it's like
Yeah.
there's room for all of us. Again, it's
And
not
that's,
a competition, it's we're collaborating, we're all in
yeah.
conversation with each other on this earth, right? So
Yeah. And that's why I have a question for the group too. Like it made me think of, like, in other chapters we were asked, like, who do you admire? Now, who do you really admire? And I'm wondering, did anyone have the people they admire also on their jealousy list? I guess it's an interesting correlation of, like, we've already talked about people we admire, and now we're talking about people we might be jealous of. I just think I'm wondering if there's an interesting link that anyone has had. I don't know. Something that's coming up for me.
yeah. And so to process this jealousy, she has an exercise of the jealousy map. So she says your jealousy map will have 3 columns. In the first column, name those whom you are jealous of. Next to each name, write why. Be specific and accurate. And then in the third column, list one action you can take to move toward creative risk and out of jealousy. When jealousy bites like a snake bite, it requires an immediate antidote. On paper, make your jealousy map.
Yes. How did y'all feel doing this exercise? Let us know in the chat. Did you do it? And what it looks like is you have 3 columns. You'll have the first column, which has who. So who are the people you're jealous of, and then why you're jealous of them or of the thing. And then third column is action antidote. What can you do to mitigate it?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really, and all of the things that were my antidotes were like things that are attainable. That's why I was laughing. I was like, this is silly. It's so funny. Like, I know how to get there. So
Exactly. I think that's what, is the key to all of these exercises and practices and tasks that we do every week, is that she's like showing kind of a mirror of like, okay, if you're jealous of this thing, okay, now this is, you wrote your own solution, right? Versus sometimes, if we're venting, right, we're like, oh, I'm so jealous of the person. Well, you probably won't even say you're jealous because in our society that's kind of seen as like taboo. But you, like, let's say you're complaining like, oh, this person always gets, selected for the small group in the class and blah 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 blah. And then the solution is like, oh, when they ask for volunteers for the next group to go, you would go.
Or you know what's coming up in this too? It's like, okay, there's also things I was jealous of that I'm like, am I willing to do that antidote? If the answer is no, maybe they need to move to I admire this person. Because sometimes like people we admire, it's like, okay, I admire them because I see what they're doing and there's no way in blah blah I could do that. But then this jealous thing, I just think I feel like there's a connection there, but it's like maybe being real with ourselves too. It's like, okay, why do we have this feeling, and can we turn it like, is it something you really want, or something you could just turn it into like an admiration and just admire that and know that, like, I think there's something about these two things that I'm just like kind of like obsessing over, of the connection of like that antidote. Like, were all the antidotes something that you could do in the coming times? And if it wasn't, can that person turn into a person you admire, a fan of?
And it makes me also think of like when she says your why and then an action antidote. Maybe if the action antidote is seeming like hard to come up with, maybe you have to process and reflect more of like what is coming up, right? So like, because some things are maybe so deeply intertwined that like
Right.
it's hard to be like, oh, okay, tomorrow I can go do this thing. But maybe you can think of like, is it bringing up, certain feelings for you, right? Are you feeling like maybe you don't have the resources, which will then go back into the abundance chapter, right? Because maybe the action doesn't feel attainable. So like, yeah, maybe just reflecting more on where you are now and what the action or antidote would be, and like maybe some smaller steps in between, right? So maybe if you see someone having an opportunity that you want, maybe it's like finding a video online of someone talking about that industry and like how they came into that industry, right? Because maybe you just see something that seems so far away, like, oh, how did that person become a brand consultant for blah 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 blah, and then you're like, oh, and then if you maybe look up a video, then you're just like, oh, that's how they did it. So maybe it's not necessarily like now doing that thing. Like maybe you're not gonna tomorrow do the thing that you're jealous of, but maybe it's like being curious of like learning more, or maybe even if that person, maybe even thinking about what you, like you said, admire about that person. But maybe it's not such a drastic like, oh, you're jealous to admiring, but maybe like, oh, this is what I'm seeing. Maybe it's traits again. Like, because she says why in an action, but maybe what are the traits of them that you're like jealous of? Like, is it they have a lot of time to dedicate it to art practice? Like she said, she wrote like they have a studio. Maybe they get to travel. Maybe you see them on tour for their art. And so, yeah, maybe the action seems a little far, or maybe not. Maybe y'all had really feasible actions, but I can.
Yeah. I love how you're saying, like, how can we look at this exercise and like excavate what our needs are?
Yeah.
There's a need there. Yeah. I
And
love that.
sometimes it's not necessarily about replicating the thing, because I can see how this exercise could lean someone to just be like, oh, am I supposed to just replicate what I'm jealous of? And sometimes, yes, there are other times when it's some other deeper thing that has nothing to do with the first.
Yeah, I definitely feel like this exercise is not a one-to-one, right? It's not a, so let us know in the comments, like, what came up when you did the exercise. Did it resonate with you? Did you kind of like how me and Tony are kind of like it's a jump off point to some other reflection? While you do that, I'm a go on a little bio break, but I'll let Tony chat with y'all a little bit more. And if you want to segue into archaeology, that's great too.
Yeah. And so with the jealousy map, I also felt like when we think of what we're jealous of, it can also help us think of what we like about what we're the person that we're jealous of, as well as the things that we don't want from that situation. So even the example of the person having like an art studio, and then she wrote the antidote action was to fix the spare room. But maybe it's making you think of like, oh, I don't have an art studio, but also I really want to like take classes in that art style, right? So like maybe you're not necessarily wanting to replicate the thing, but maybe it's making you think of what you actually want, and you just want to dive deeper into your art practice. So that's something we could think of. And then at the end of that section, she also shares, even the biggest changes begin with small ones. Green is the color of jealousy, but it's also the color of hope. When you learn to harness its fierce energy on your own behalf, jealousy is part of the fuel toward a greener and more verdant future. Right? So I think, again, she's trying to share that like it doesn't necessarily have to be such a negative thing. We can use this excavation and this reflection to fuel our creative recovery. And I like how she mentioned even the biggest changes begin with small ones. So I guess I'll ask all of y'all to share in the comments, I guess, what's from the section of perfectionism, risk, and jealousy. I guess like maybe what's a small change you're thinking of that will be helpful for your recovery. So whether that's taking more risk and whatever the risk is, or unlearning perfectionism and really just allowing yourself to be and be imperfect. And I think those all lead up to the jealousy, right? Because maybe we're jealous because we feel like that person is perfect when we see their Instagram, which obviously social media is a highlight reel of, quote, perfect moments. So maybe even thinking about that of like, okay, I'm comparing myself to someone who I admire, who I'm only seeing their perfect highlight reel, right? Would we still feel jealous if we saw, all the behind the scenes that they also go through? And so different things to think of. And again, I just think she really does focus on the smaller things we can do. And I know for me in the past, I didn't write about this, but I used to get, I guess, jealous or weird feelings of like the gym girlies, the like fitness girlies, because I didn't like going to the gym. So I stopped following them because I was like, yeah, it made me feel a type of way because I'd be like, oh, am I supposed to be at the gym right now? And then I'd feel weird. But I'm like, no, I don't want to be at the gym. So I unfollow, and then now I don't see that, and I'm fine. Because guess what? I don't want to do, like, especially when it comes to social media and that psychology where it's like you don't have to follow people. Like you also have free will to just unfollow. So I'll share that to say that like if something is really bothering you and through the processing and the reflection, you're like, oh, I think I just don't like that thing. I think that's also okay. You don't have to like all the things or want to do what you see others doing.
Yeah, that speaks to like thinking you're supposed to want something and you don't, which makes you have that not so fun feeling. And it can be like misconstrued as jealousy when like actually just don't care for it. That's real. How freeing is
Right.
that, right?
Yeah. And especially in the social media age, I've seen more these days of people being like, okay, I'm going to talk about this thing that I want to share. And like, if it's not for you, just keep scrolling. Cause it's just like, why would you watch? Not that you can't watch something, have negative comments of like, no, I would never do that. And it's like, you could have just scrolled past the video. Like, why do you feel compelled to comment on someone else's expression, their video that they posted? And so I think that's something too. It's like maybe the jealousy is coming from maybe this isn't for you. Like maybe you just need to like let that pass, let that go, and then try and actually direct yourself, change your direction to what you actually want to do.
Speaking of actually what you want to do, this archaeology section. Actually, I thought this was, I mean, it's always cool to go back and do this. I found some of these hard to answer. And I'm like, is it my mood? I'm not really sure. But I mean, obviously, this whole book is about excavating, right? And recovering. So I understand that there's gems in these questions, but yeah, so Julia has a list of questions that she says, very often we have buried parts of ourselves that can be uncovered by some digging. Not only will your answers tell you what you've missed in the past, they will tell you what you can be doing now to comfort and encourage your artist child. It is not too late, no matter what your ego tells you. That's true. That is true.
Exactly.
That is true. That is true. Mm-hmm. I mean, because this might tie into like your interest of things you want to pursue, like creative things, because we think we missed the mark. I like for sure, for sure. Here's some examples of questions. As a kid, I missed the chance to. As a kid, I lacked. As a kid, I could have used. As a kid, I dreamed of being. As a kid, I wanted a. In my house, we never had enough, blank. As a kid, I needed more, blank. I am sorry that I will never see, wait. I am sorry that I will never again see, blank. For years, I have missed and wondered about. And 10, I beat myself up about the loss of blank.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, interesting. That last one. I was like, why she like to pile them up? Yeah, this was is this the digging you're talking about, Jesse? This archaeology? Yeah.
I think I talked about this last year, but or earlier this year as well, probably. But for number one, I put as a kid, I missed the chance to try different sports or activities and like even Girl Scouts because I had dance all the time. So I never got to do anything but dance, literally.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying not to cry right now, but my answer to number one is as a kid, I missed the chance to hang out with my grandma.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
Oh,
that
yeah.
was like, yeah, because we were military kids, so we moved around a lot. So that's the first thing I thought, y'all. I was like, I missed a chance hanging with my grandma. Like I think about that a lot. So
Yeah.
trying not to get a frog in my throat. But yes, I'm like, that was like, I can't get through the rest of this.
Remember when you said earlier you let the cry?
I know. But that was, I was like, what is she doing here?
Yeah, when I was younger, I always thought about that. I was like, wait, people just get to hang out with their grandparents all the time. Their grandparents just like taking them to
Well, I got emotional.
come into their back to school night or, whatever,
Yeah.
recital or whatever. I was like, oh, they weren't necessarily a part of like our everyday life. Like they would come for certain like months and stuff to visit us. And we would go to Houston for some months. But yeah, it wasn't necessarily like our day to day. And then even, compared to our cousins, right? Like our cousins had more so those experiences. And that we only had one set of grandparents too. So it was already limited. And then now all of our grandparents are no longer with us for that. So yeah, it was even the other day, there was like someone was talking about their grandparents, and I was like, oh wow, your grandparents are still here. Like to me, I'm just like,
I know yesterday someone was like, oh, my grandparents are here to watch the show. And I was like, I am so emotional right now. I was like, ooh. Jesse answers, my number one answer was make mistakes. That's for real. Yeah, as a kid. Yeah, because when you're a kid, you make a mistake. I was like, oh, it's okay. It was an accident. Yeah. That was, ooh.
And then again for number 7, I put as a kid, I needed more space to try new things. Because yeah, I mean, I did crafts and stuff, but again, that was more so just like at home or with my mom or with my immediate like small group of friends, but it wasn't necessarily like what I did with like I guess a lot of my time. Like the time I had as a kid was more dedicated to going to a dance studio and taking class and doing competitive.
Yeah.
And so I wish I had more space to do.
Unstructured time.
Yeah. And so that's when once I got to high school, I was like, wait, I don't want to be doing this all the time, every day, all day. I wanted to try other things. So in high school, I started trying other things, but it was also hard because I still was in dance and I was in dance team at high school. So that still limited. Like I wanted to do track, but that was the same time as dance team practice. So I couldn't do it. And I was captain. So I was like, I wanted leadership experience. I chose leadership over trying a new thing. And then yeah, so like there was bits of me doing other things, but I still had a yearning. I still remember when I was those ages of like yearning to try something new, but because of my like rigid schedule, it's like I'm a kid, why do I have this rigid schedule? Give me the space to really try, or it couldn't be like, oh, 1 year I'm going to try this, because it's like once you're kind of in certain activities, you kind of have like a way that you move up every year and like things that you sign up for months in a
Yeah. And like summer camps are so specific. Like I remember going to aquatic summer camp, like specific versus like you're going to be hanging out around a whole bunch of children and counselors are around. It was always, even like at that age, like it was so, or the society had already deemed that we have structured playtime. So even in the summertime, when we went to our summer programs, there was always some kind of enrichment activity. So you weren't just playing outside and then they had lunch and then you played outside again. It was like regimented. So, I mean, I'm not complaining. It was great, but also at the same time, we need idle time. And for me, number 6 is in my house, we never had enough alone time, personal.
Oh yeah, still to this day. Oh, maybe she dropped off. I guess she'll come back. But I think she's gonna say personal space. I guess if I remember from the same house that we grew up in. But feel free if you're watching the live to comment any of the number prompts that you did. You don't necessarily have to share what you shared or what you wrote down. You can, because there was 10 questions. So if you want to like just call out, oh, number 5, I really resonated with, or number 6 was hard to answer, feel free to share in the comments. But you're back.
I feel like the universe is like, stop talking about your house.
They're like, girl, we don't need to hear it.
We don't need to hear about you not having personal time in your home. No, we're just a very like
personal space. They're like, we'll give you space. They say,
yeah, you want personal space? Log out.
oh yeah, to this day, still no personal space.
Yeah, we just have a very hyper connected nucleus.
Yeah, some would say helicopter or enmeshed. Enmeshed is another word, but yes. Yeah, I feel like number 8 was hard for me to share, like to think of. Like, I am sorry that I will never again see, and I'm like, huh? Like, I wrote something, but to me, I just kind of wrote anything. I didn't really feel like, oh yeah, this is what I feel.
I put, I'm sorry I'll never again see Missy in the house roaming around. That's what I put. I was like, but besides that, I didn't know what to put.
Yeah.
Besides that grief, I don't know what to put.
Yeah. Also, because when I think of I'm sorry, I'm thinking of like something that I'm apologizing for. And
Oh, that's true.
apologize for my grief. Like I wouldn't think so. That's why my head didn't go.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like I was like, what am I? I don't know. But maybe that's what she meant, more of like a grieving sorry.
I'm sorry that I will never again see.
I guess yeah. Y'all can.
Ooh.
What number? If you did number? Oh, here Jesse shares number 8. I don't know why this came out, but I wrote. I'm sorry that I'll never again see less traffic. Oh, okay. So like how like now the roads are congested.
Oh, that's a good point. I'm sorry I'll never again see this mass open space before we see Oceanside Beach. You know what I'm saying?
Like the gentrification of downtown Oceanside, I'm sorry, I'll never again see certain parts of our city that's like gone. You know what I mean? Like,
True. That's real. Because
I'm like,
crisis, y'all, everything is going. Yeah, no, those are so true. Those are so true. We'll never see a cooler day than the warm days.
yeah, I'm sorry, I'll never again see the drive-in off of the 76. You know, people, the swap meet. You know, those are things I took for granted, man. Dang it. So, anyways, just let's close this out. I'm sorry that I'll never again see, you know, my childhood. Have you? Oh.
My childhood. I had a dance, I had a lyrical dance, yeah.
Mhm.
Like, but
For me, it's like I'm sorry I'll never again see some of my childhood friends because me and Tony moved around so much that there's certain childhood friends that like I remember playing with them, but like I don't have their contacts. I guess like I could say that, but we can move on. Excavating.
no, I feel that too. But yeah, so interesting. The archaeology, it did make me think of just like, just yeah, wishing, like just missing that, not the playful, missing that, like, I guess, free feeling when I was younger. Because, like, you don't know as much about the world. There's not as much pressure. There's not as much stress going on. So I do feel like when I was thinking about some of these prompts, just thinking back when I was younger and a kid and how I felt, I was like, oh yeah, like that was nice. And so I guess you probably would ask us like, oh, well, what can you do now to get back to that feeling of like that
Yeah.
freeness or that kid creativity, maybe if you felt, a different kind of way when you were younger and creating versus when you're creating now.
Yeah, and she talks about like it's important to acknowledge our positive inventory as well as our shortfalls. Take positive stock of what good you have to build on the present. And so she has a list of 10 questions here. Like, I have a loyal friend in, I think I have a nice, I'm taking greater interest in, my self care is, I like that one. I feel more, and then possibly my creativity is blank. I loved number 10. I put for number 10, possibly my creativity is my existence.
Oh, I like that.
That made me feel really good. Like after I said that, I was like, I just felt this level of contentment.
Mm-hmm.
And then 9, I feel more. I feel more grounded in nuance.
Mm.
I was feeling very poetic. Yeah, let us know how did that feel. Like I know Jesse, you said you enjoyed answering the positive ones. I sure did too. It's almost like we have to get the matote, madness out with the jealousy that lead us into archaeology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for number 7, I wrote my artist has started to pay more attention to what's draining me, what I feel I'm missing, and what I'm yearning for. So just more like
Mm.
self-reflection.
Mm. Yes. Um, Jesse wrote for 10, my greatest strength. So possibly my creativity is my greatest strength. Oh, I love that
Oh,
too.
I love that.
I love that one. Yeah. But I love what you said about the morning pages. Writing my morning pages has shown me that I can.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. I express myself with no judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Have not so pretty thoughts and it'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
A thought is a thought.
Mhm.
Mhm. So, how are y'all feeling after week 7? Recovering a sense of connection. Um, did y'all do any of the tasks? If you did, let us know. I didn't. I wasn't really good at doing the tasks this week. I'm not gonna lie. I actually um, only did the ones that didn't require as much effort. Like I didn't do any of the collage ones, but I did wear one of my favorite clothing items for no occasion. Tony, you talked about that earlier.
Mhm.
Um, and when they said buy yourself a wonderful pair of socks, I took myself to the Salvation Army and I got me a cute little dress for $6.99. It's a Jam World vintage. It's really cute, and I'm excited to wear it. But yeah, so any seed that said do something, I said, listen, you don't have to tell me twice.
Oh my god.
And I don't feel guilty about it because you know what? It is what it is.
Girl. I did number 4, creating a wonderful smell in your house, because I always have my incense, but I definitely like intentionally lit my incense and stuff, so that was nice. Yes, I did wear my lace skirts. I wore my flower earrings. Um, so that was fun to just like, I mean, I do that kind of always nowadays because of where I'm at in my style journey, but it was nice to be reminded of just like, oh yeah, like that's nice. Um, and then I was starting to list the 5 of my favorite films, but I realized I have a lot more favorite TV shows than films. But one of my favorite films that I did write down is Intergalactic, the animated movie with the music, and the main character is Kid Cudi, and I just love it. I watch it all the time. It's my emotional support movie. Whenever I'm like, I don't know what to watch and I want something to feel good, I watch that movie. So I love it. So Intergalactic with an E on Netflix. If y'all want a recommendation, it's cutesy. It's like romantic. It's funny. It's like his journey of being an artist, his creative recovery himself. Um, so yeah. So
Are you adding that to the homework? Check out Intergalactic.
yeah. That's your task for the week.
Tony Task.
For number 9, I did do the name your favorite topics to read about. I had so many. Number 1 is romance. I love a good romance novel. And I was trying to listen to an audiobook of a romance novel this week, but I realized it didn't come out yet. It comes out on the 15th. So I have another week I have to wait. And I was like, I want to read this already. I also like historical fiction. Like spirituality things, or healing books about like spiritual practices, specifically like Afro spiritual practices, self-development, so like Artist Way and those kind of things. Um, but like womanism and like Afrofeminism or like Black feminist texts I read as well. Hence my shirt.
We love.
Um, Yeah. And then this week, it was not one of the tasks, but I kept thinking of imaginary lives that I would want to do. So I wrote that down. And so I had so many imaginary lives. I put librarian, and I've been talking about the library a lot, but I was like, oh yeah, when I was younger, of course, but even now, like I'm like, oh yeah, if I had a different life, I think I would want to be a librarian.
Yes.
A jewelry maker or jewelry designer. I love all my jewelry. I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't made jewelry. Well, I had crafted some stuff before, but
You
not.
need some earrings. Yeah.
And then a travel vlogger, a secondhand shop owner. So I'd own my own little shop. A small museum curator, like with those quaint little cute museum gallery things. Costume designer, that one was fun too. I was like, oh, I do be liking different costumes, and I do be critical of some costumes. I'm like, why did they choose that? So I think I would enjoy doing that. A tour guide. I was a tour guide in college, but like for when people travel to a place. and then a food reviewer / a travel reviewer, which, because sometimes I'm like, oh, this is a great meal. Sometimes I'm like, what is this? And I would love to be reviewing that. So
You know,
yes.
it's funny. It's like your imaginary lives are things that you actually be doing. You embody those things.
Yeah,
Like
but
you're my tour guide. You're my personal stylist.
life,
Your closet is my thrift shop.
I mean, is it my life or you're making that my life because you doing that?
You pick great food places and we go eat there.
Like, comment below, y'all, if you did any of those tasks or if any other things you want to share before we close out. As you shares, yeah, you can do some of those things now for sure. Yes, definitely. Yeah. All right, y'all. So as we close out this week, feel free to comment any last minute things you wanted to share. But yeah, so this was good.
You're doing sound check now. That's why I have to go on mute because they're rocking out. So that's why.
But yeah, this is great to share about week 7, recovering a sense of connection. Yeah, we're more than halfway through, y'all. We're almost done. And then in the next weeks, we will have a guest every week. So we're excited. Next week is Jenny Wright. You can follow her at Dramatically Me. And then we have Caitlin, and then we have Nia. And yeah, we're just really excited to have our guests on to share their insights. And yeah, so be on the lookout. Go on our website to see everything sultry related, y'all. Because we got so much stuff going on, and stay connected to the community, and we will see you all next week. Bye.